You're listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio.
So hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Changing Reality. Welcome one, welcome all. If this is your first time tuning in, where have you been all our lives? This is the place to be. This is where the tea is, the stories are. And if you're a returning audience member, thank you. We love the support that you guys shower us with and are so grateful to have you guys with us here today. So if you don't know, Changing Reality is a show that features phenomenal people from all walks of life, who are in essence changing their own reality. So through this show, we'll be hanging out and speaking to brilliant people from social change makers, entrepreneurs, business leaders, to even artists, musicians, executives, top industry experts in a way. And getting the inspiring stories from these individuals who have trekked all across the world, many who have spent time here on the Penn campus as well, and all who have brilliant stories to tell. And by hearing these stories of how they managed to change their own reality, we hopefully will be able to uncover the little nuggets of wisdom that we can from them so that we can implement it in our own lives, shorten our own learning curves, and hopefully figure out how we can change our own reality as well. And I wanted to do this show simply because I believe that there are a lot of people out there who do phenomenal things and make waves in the lives of those around them. And I'm really passionate about learning those lessons from them because stories have been just such an integral part in my journey. They have been the reason I've been able to accomplish everything I have. They have been the reason for any small successes that I've had. And I wanted to share that kind of ethos of learning from stories with everyone else. Just to show you how powerful it's been for me, I actually personally founded and run a youth movement back at home in Malaysia, which is where I'm from, called Ascendance, which today collaborates with not just our Malaysian Ministry of Education, but works with over 26 countries to help everyday students who want to change their reality. So we work with students from elementary all the way up to college through various sessions, programs, experiential learning activities, and projects that help them discover their passion, learn about themselves and the world around them, and start their own careers while they're still in school, despite being however old or young they are. And to date, we've been fortunate to work with over 35,000 kids, 970 communities, 28 countries, as I said, and have incubated countless number of student-run projects and even social enterprises run by students aged 8 to 25 years old. And the reason we've been able to do all of this is stories. It's kind individuals who have taken their time out to tell us what they've gone through. What are the challenges? What are the good, the bad, the in-between that made them who they are today? And just like that, today I'm very excited to bring to you guys our guest speaker, who honestly, when I first heard her story, was really blown away. She's someone who, even at a young age, has, in a sense, trekked the world. She took her passion for math and her passion for the arts and combined it into not only a lovely personality, but also an extremely successful career. We're speaking today to the Vice President of Equity Research and Internet at Bank of America. So without further ado, let's bring on the amazing Joanna Zhao. Hello, Joanna. How are you today?
Marsha, how are you? So good to see you.
Yes, so good to see you.
Thank you so much for hosting the show. You know, when I was a student, I really wished I could have access to something like this. This is just an amazing platform.
Oh my God, thank you so much for coming back. Like, I am honored to have you on the show. It's not the other way around. And I really appreciate you taking time. As I said, it's about people like you, alumni who come back and share with us that make the world of business so like possible in a way. So thank you so much. And honestly, how has your day been so far? I hope we didn't catch you like in the middle of the busyness and the stress of the week. I know like September is when things start picking back up after summer ends. So how's the life of Joanna like this week in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, so this week, well, yes, those things have been quite busy actually since Labor Day. So that's just usually the nature of the business. And clients are all back from vacation, and we have been very busy. And but today has been great, and it's a Sunday, so can't complain.
It's the chillax day, and we're bothering you. How horrible of us! Oh my gosh! But I was really blown away by your story, and I think jumping right in, you are someone who again lives the Penn student dream life. You are a VP at again one of the biggest companies out there, private equity, investment banking, things that we currently cry about hoping one day we can be as successful as you. So I actually wanted to start off by talking a little bit about how you were like when you rewind the clock and were a student yourself. I think when we chatted, you were extremely talented, even when you were as young as 5, 6 years old, right?
Yes, yes. Well, thank you. But so I'll just tell your story a little bit back to my early childhood. So I was born in Beijing, and I grew up there throughout my elementary school. And I think it's at the age of 13 was when my parents decided to immigrate to Canada. And so my dad decided to come here for a year, and then I jumped on a one-way flight from Beijing to Toronto. And my mom was supposed to come with me, but she decided to actually stay back for her career. And that was actually a surprise. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going on my own. So I did took a one-way flight when I was 14 years old from Beijing to Toronto and landed there. And then, reunited with my dad. It's absolutely interesting. I think I would say it's a huge shock from many different perspectives when I first came to Canada, culturally and mentally. And it's definitely a very new environment, but also a new language and a new school, and everything was new. And at the time, my dad was very busy working. My mom wasn't around. So I learned to be very much on my own and be very independent very early on in my life. And so that, I think, looking back, it really kind of established a foundation of me becoming such a person that's very much independent thinker early on in life, but also build a lot of resilience in the face of adversity.
I have no idea how you do it. I'm 20 and I am terrified of like flying by myself, which is something that I have to do soon. And even just like as a college student, like from Malaysia going like to the States and meeting people there, I get a little bit of culture shock as well. And I pride myself as being raised on Disney. So I was a little like confused when that happened. I can't imagine doing that essentially to an extent by myself at 13, 14. How did you feel, like moving halfway across the world literally and being thrown into essentially a new environment? Were you scared at all? Were you just like, this is a piece of cake for me? And how did you kind of rise above it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I was about 12 years old, my parents actually sent me to a summer program in Australia, Tasmania, Australia. So that was actually a really interesting program. I was there for the summer, and I was with a homestay family. So I actually learned what it was like, to be in, outside of China on my own. But I was like, actually, it's really amazing. It's in Australia. So I would imagine Canada is similar from that perspective. So when I was jumping on a flight, my mind was all about, man, this is going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to this. But I think until, I landed and I got enrolled into school, and it's a different reality. Let's just put it that way. And so that's when the shock came. And I was like, oh, and this is very, there are just many challenges that I didn't really think about at the time. But I think what really made me kind of navigate through that difficult period of transition was really me becoming a very much independent thinker and really taking ownership of my own life very early on, because I knew that my dad was very busy. I really don't want to put more pressure on him to worry about me. And my mom wasn't around. So I was like, I asked myself questions very early on, like, okay, well, this is hard. I was going to school and I could only understand like 10% of the class at the time. How do I get to, what do I want, by the time I graduate from high school? Like, where do I want to get to? And I wanted to obviously graduate with a high average and, and participate in all of the things I wanted to do. But also I wanted to get into top university, a great program. I wanted to know what I wanted to do for my career. So I needed to figure everything out. So from that point on, I think I learned to just set goals for myself at the age of 14 and said, hey, I'm going to give my 150% to the goals that I set for myself, and then check in with myself every 6 months or a year and see how I progressed. And that's exactly how I felt like, I learned a new language. I was able to work on my accent. I came in with an Australian accent because that's the kind of English I was exposed to, and really just set those goals for myself. And then by the time I graduated, I graduated with 97% average. I got into all of the programs I applied to with full scholarships. So it's just amazing. It's very much a transformation, and I even surprised myself. So my advice to students is that do the hard things early if you can, because when you do the hard, so when even later on when I was working on Wall Street, when I look back, I always ask, what are the toughest times in my life that I overcame extreme adversity. And those were actually the years, the 14 to 18. Those were the years I always look back to and say, hey, at that point, because you were such a vulnerable person, like you're not an adult, you're not 18 years old, you're not, in college. That you're way more developed, I think, at that point. But when you were 14, you're very much vulnerable. So if at a very young and vulnerable age, you could figure your life out and made a success out of yourself, that actually builds so much confidence and resilience and strong character and independence in yourself. And these qualities, I always has built the foundation of who I am and how I could become successful later on Wall Street as well.
I love that answer. You hit on 2 points which have honestly been something that has been so that I have really like believed in from setting goals. That's something which I always think is like the most important thing out there. And also the thing that I am learning right now is to do the hard things first. I really like that you mentioned that. It's not easy, but you're right. It's really great advice. My question is this, in a sense. I know many people who are in similar positions, in a sense. They not necessarily even travel halfway across the world. They just go into a new environment. They don't feel that they fit in, or they don't really understand what's going on, whether that's in a class or in a boardroom. And instead of rising to the occasion, many of them get disengaged. And they get, and I think we can't blame them, because it's really easy to get disengaged when you feel like that, in a sense. What do you think was different about your experience that enabled you to look for solutions versus just disengaging?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think I learned very early on in life, it's very important to have a positive mindset. And positive mindset is, and I totally agree with you, because given that situation, I could go either way, right? I could become the Joanna Zhao that's today, but also I could go the other way. Very much.
You could have been like Joanna Zhao, the quiet one.
Exactly. I chose to go, the upward trajectory as opposed to down. But I was actually at rock bottom of my life when I first came here. Age of 14 there was no friends. Like, it's a new school, and I was learning a new language. I felt very much alone in that process. And I was at rock bottom, and I was like, I hated this feeling. And honestly, that feeling did not get me excited to get up, wake up in the morning to go to school and do this over and over again. So I was like, this doesn't really help me. It really kind of put me into this downward spiral if I continue this way. So the only way to turn this around is really to figure out, what do I want? Like the goals I want to set. Like I can imagine, visualize yourself, visualize success. I can imagine Joanna, 4 years down the road, by the age of 18, I will get into the top university, top program, and figure out a great career for myself and make it big for myself, right? I want to visualize that's the success, that's the outcome. And how do I get there? I'll think about it. But I also realized that there's no benefit of being negative, because that just puts you in a downward spiral. I need to have a positive mindset. And that kind of goes back to, you're also betting on yourself, right? You need to trust the process. You need to trust yourself. My thinking at the time, because I'm very analytical, I think about this a lot in my head at the time, because I was like, if a negative, that's going to just put me down. I need to go the other way. I need to have a positive trajectory. So I need to have a positive mindset, and let me see. And I'm going to do this and have a positive mindset, regardless how difficult it is, and continue to do that for a year and see where I land, check in with myself. And that really check in is a validation that I've chosen the right path.
Okay. Very, very, very clearly, beautifully laid out advice. And honestly, I need to apply that. I need to probably set a reminder on my phone for every 6 months, because I feel like it's so easy to forget to count your progress versus, just when every day looks the same. So very, very like beautifully laid out. I definitely see the Wall Street mindset of the trajectories and all of that. I see that you're one of those people who have an amazing positive mindset, and at the same time is super analytical, and at the same time is able to kind of plan ahead, which I'm very surprised that you were able to do this as a kid. Like adults struggle with this. That's crazy. Do you think that the kind of echoes, or maybe the hints that you would be this kick-ass amazing Wall Street person were present when you were a kid as well?
It's interesting because I actually didn't know about Wall Street
I thought it was Wall Street. Yeah.
in career. But I think I always wanted a positive outcome for myself. I've always been very ambitious and hardworking in my life. And I think that also I learned very early on. I think this probably goes back to the dance journey that I mentioned a little bit at the beginning. So maybe we can go into that a little bit. So when I
have to embarrass you just to start off and show them this adorable photo.
Thank you. Yeah, so when I was 5 years old, I actually started dancing in kindergarten. I thought it was very interesting. But my mom actually maybe saw a talent in me. So she actually sent me to a professional dance school, but for weekend classes. So it's called Eastern Dance Academy. And it's actually one of the established dance schools in Beijing. And essentially what they do is they actually do professional dancer training, during the week, but on the weekend, they actually have the special program for children. And so I was sent there, and then for about a 3-hour class every single Saturday or Sunday. And so I've been doing that consistently from when I was 5 years old to 12 years old. So like 7 years in span. So every single weekend, regardless it's a snow or rain or whatever. So I kept that up. So I think at the beginning, I didn't, I was terrible at dance. I was always the last row, and I didn't know what I was doing. And but then over time, really that persistence paid off, and that hard work paid off, and it actually became my passion, to the point that if my mom couldn't send me to dance class on weekends, I would actually end up crying. I was like, I really wanted to go. Please send me. And then I became a great dancer and actually attend and then did so many different performances throughout my elementary school. So many of them. Every single year we have different festivals, and also Eastern Dance Academy will also have opportunities to perform, and we'll be invited to go and do that. So part of my life, and that was one of the right after one of the performances we did actually at elementary school. So like, I at a very early age, I got used to kind of being comfortable on stage, but also found the passion outside academic work. So I think that is very important. And that even carried with me later on in my career on Wall Street. It is a high, long hour, demanding sector, dynamic sector, that requires a lot of physical stamina, but also in order to balance it out and to have that work-life balance, I always took the opportunities that I had on the weekends or on evenings whenever I could to take dance classes at Broadway Dance Center, and just to continue that dance journey, right? So it's amazing. And also participating in many of the dance performances, dance competition, and really getting into that and seeing actually other talents in this field. That was really amazing. So I think it really just taught me that hard work and persistence paid off, but it also taught me to really wanting to be the best in whatever.
You are crazy. You are Wall Street during the day, and you are professional almost-ish dancer during the evenings or the Saturday and Sundays. Many people often, I feel like, and this is something that I struggle with as well. You work a very stressful job, more stressful than me, and it is long hours and all of that. Of course, you're doing brilliant, great work, but how do you still have the energy to do other things? And does that energy feed into you for the rest of the week? Or is it, or how do you balance the spreadsheet of your time in your brain is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a great question, actually. So, I mean, obviously, during the day, it's all about work. And then to the extent that you have some time on the weekends, I actually feel like being at the dance, it actually re-energized me. I use it to actually as a tool to re-energize me. So I think it comes down to your passion. Like if you go do a hobby or passion outside of your everyday work, it really does help you to re-energize yourself. And I really would, every time after the dance, I would feel like 10 times more refreshed and be so ready to tackle the next day on Wall Street, whatever it is, and I always have that. So a lot of people actually, interestingly, either my friends or peers or coworkers, they always say, Joanna has so much energy.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel like, maybe like I do have perhaps more energy than on average, but I think the way for me to refill that energy is through, my passion and hobbies outside, right? And have that work-life balance and sometimes, when you're at a computer and you work 80 hours a week or 100 hours a week, sometimes, when you're on very much high profile and time sensitive deals, that extra incremental 30 minutes or an hour doesn't really help improve the productivity by you staying at the computer and doing it. So instead of doing that, and you can actually go and maybe take a dance class or do a 30 minutes run, right? And now I do a 5K run. I try to do it every day if I could after work. And that really re-energized me. It makes me want to actually tackle day fresh the next day. And I had so much energy. I'm just like, I can do really well in my job. So it really helps you to balance and help you to refocus.
Okay, I like that part. The extra 30 minutes that you squeeze for the work and you drag on is not going to re-energize you, but the passion that you have. Okay, I'll go and do my run tomorrow. I promise, Joanna. All right, I'll hold myself to that after this conversation. No, you hit the nail on the head. I think that's something so important that even at Penn and Wharton, like as students, I feel like everyone is just so stressed out sometimes that we forget this, and this is just such an important thing. Tell me a little bit about how you were like when you were a student. I know before you were at Penn, you were at the University of Waterloo, if I'm not mistaken. And you mentioned earlier you got all the scholarships or more like all the opportunities to join all the top programs. So how did you decide what you wanted to do at that college time? I think that's one of the, or at least probably not the hardest decisions, but it feels at that point of time as one of the hardest decisions we're ever going to make.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I, was in high school in Canada, I just naturally gravitated towards math and also sciences. So I was extremely good in math and also chemistry. So I have also, in addition to just academics and regular work, I also attended many different competitions in math and chemistry and did really well and received recognition. And so I think from that, I just know that, okay, I'm naturally quantitatively inclined. And so I apply to programs most of it actually are pre-med because I'm good at chemistry and my mom actually works in the medical field and she just thinks that being a doctor is so awesome and she wanted me to pursue that career, as most of the parents, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know like my grandparents would be like, if you could drop everything and be a doctor, we'd be the most proud. I mean, we love what you're doing, but doctor. But yeah.
Exactly. So, and then for math, I knew that I'm quantitative inclined, but I always think, okay, how can I really apply that into the business world? So at the time, I was watching news every day, and like 10 or 9 to 10 p.m., whatever. So I always see the CFO right after quarterly earnings will come out and actually talk about how the company did and, why the earnings went the way they went and also what's like the outlook on the business. And I thought that was really, really interesting. So it's like the title is Chief Financial Officer. It's like, okay, so finance is really about numbers. So if you know your numbers, you're good at math. And so you potentially can become a CFO one day. And if, and then that seems to be a very successful route. And if I could be that person on TV one day, that would be awesome. So maybe I could use my math and apply that into business setting. And so at the time when I was looking at program, there was this pilot program at University of Waterloo that just got introduced a few years earlier. It's a math and business double degree program. Essentially, it gives you an opportunity to study 2 degrees in the same amount of time as a person that would complete 1 degree. So at the time, I really want to, I love challenge, and I felt like at the time already
little. Let me get to
overcame adversity. I'm like, I really want to continue to the challenge, as I said, do the hard things early, because I think that will really help position you very well, right? Like, and so so I applied for the program, and it's actually the program that says you have to have a 95% minimum average in order to even consider applying for it, because they only accept top 60 students across Canada.
So if you don't have a 95, don't even bother applying.
Yeah,
Like,
and don't even bother applying. So I was like, okay, let me apply and try, and then give it a shot. And then actually I got accepted with full scholarship. I think with the math competition I wrote, that really helped me. Also with University of Waterloo, actually they recognized the math, because they're very well known for math and engineering. It's almost like MIT in Canada, if you're not familiar with the school. Yes, that's a good way to do the comparison. And so and I was like, I think I want, I got in. This is awesome. This is a challenging program. I will be surrounded by very smart students. I think I will learn a lot from them, but also from all these tough curriculum. And then also for biology, I was like, okay, I don't really like the memorization part. So, I could become a doctor, I'm good at chemistry, but there's that big part of biology, which I'm not very excited about. So I'm going to listen to my heart, and I'm going to do this. And I think that's also very much like me taking my own ownership of my future in my own hands, because I choose this and I'm going to give all in. And that's always been kind of it goes back to my earlier, like, independent thinker, right? At the age of 14, like, this is the path I choose, and these are the goals that I set for myself. I'm going to go all in and see how far life will take me.
No, I love that. And I love the follow your heart like aspect of it. And congratulations on getting into the MIT of Canada. That is crazy in itself. Like I see you. And I liked how you had that focus even going in, that I want to learn the math, I want to learn the stats, the finance, but I want to put it in a business application. And I like how you kind of chose that route and followed that route despite everything else happening. Tell me also a little bit about how it was like leaving university, entering into your first job. I think you started as an analyst in Citi.
Yes.
So I know that another big culture shock that people often face is entering the working world, because we're in this academic world where it's always A, B, C, D, and then you go into the corporate world where you don't get grades, you have people that you actually have to work with. There's projects there. It's a lot more, I wouldn't say intense, but it's a lot more, I would say, a unique experience that can't be taught by books necessarily. How did you adapt to, now again, the working world, a different culture in a sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was near graduation, and I was talking to some of the alumni of the program, also from Waterloo, and then I think how I decided on going on to this capital markets investment banking route is I talked to them and asked, like, what is the right career path, and what is a good career path to consider from coming out of this program? And they said investment banking, capital markets, or sales and trading. These are the top career professions that you should just take a shot and see how you like it. And that's kind of how I applied for Citigroup's derivatives and structured products group. It actually sits within sales and trading division with Citi. And essentially my role there was to really help, the CFO and work with CFO and treasurer of the company. Going back to the CFO.
Like, I want to go, and then boom, you're there. Okay.
Yes, they're actually my clients now. So and to help them to manage their interest rate and FX risk. And to come, to structure different derivatives. So namely interest rate or cross currency type of derivatives. It's a very niche market. But I think why I chose that was I know that I had a very strong analytical background, so leaning into my strengths a little bit. So in order to understand the derivative side of the business, it's actually quite complex. And they actually do appreciate people coming from Waterloo and math background, and to go and do and structure and price them. And so I think when you talk about the shock, right, going from academics and purely academics, mostly high, all the way elementary school, middle school, high school to college, and then you graduate, it's actually quite significant, because you're working full time. You're working with people on the team. You have a manager that you report to, and you work very closely with. But then you also have different, co-workers in different departments that you work closely with, cross-functional teams, such as like corporate banking, investment banking. And so I think relationship became a really important aspect of work. And a lot of soft skill sets, right? Communication, negotiation, like how do you negotiate with a client? leadership skills as you kind of transition, from analyst to associate to vice president, and to senior levels. And so these type of skill sets I actually weren't really much taught in undergrad,
I don't think we learn about it in class, but it's nothing like actually being like in a situation where you have to negotiate, to communicate. So how do you learn that?
Yeah, so actually, I mean, you learn by doing, but you also learn by observing. So you observe, your senior manager who are doing the negotiating and who manage the relations with clients, and you see how they do it. So ultimately, that's like if you wanted to advance in your career later on, that you became actually a salesperson. So I think we talked about different skill sets that were required at different stage of the career, right? So analysts, you come in, you do a lot of groundwork, build a model. How do you price the derivative? Learn how to price and price it for us. And then also, prepare the pitch books, right? So senior before they go and build relationship with clients, they need to pitch. And so that's like really, foundation skill. And you come in and you do a lot of that. But as you progress to associate, you do better at that. But then, when you go to get to the vice president level, you're essentially becoming a leader in managing deals and in executing deals. And so that is a different skill set. That is all about a more, you're the quarterback of the deal. You're good at execution. You need to understand process. You need to become the leader and motivate people. Sometimes, in leverage finance later on, the role after Citi was basically you're working with cross-functional teams that could be 30, 50, or 70 people. And you're working with investment banking, corporate banking, risk, legal, credit, all different aspects of the. So you got to be a leader and you need to know how to navigate this and get it to close. And so that's a very different skill set. So actually when I went to analyst training program, I thought, what, I really wanted to improve these type of skill sets, right? Because that wasn't really very much I learned from Waterloo, because I did all the quantitative, analytical aspect, learn all the calculus, algebra, or all of that. But I do want to bridge that gap, further develop the soft skill sets, all of these like leadership, negotiation, communication, building a network, building relationships. And so that's when I decided, after 3 years working there, I wanted to go to business school, because I knew that if I wanted to further advance my career here, in investment banking or capital markets, ultimately become, on path to become, the director or managing director level, I need these skill sets. And so that's one of the reasons why it motivated me to actually go back to apply for MBA, and went to Wharton. Proud you've can graduate to date. One of the best decisions I've made, actually, to go to Wharton full-time MBA program. It's just amazing.
One thing about you that I absolutely love is that you are so focused on your goal, and you don't let anything shake you from that goal. You're just like, oh, I don't have this knowledge, I'm just gonna go to business school and I'm gonna get it, and then I'm gonna go back on the goal. I feel like sometimes that's something that not many people can see clearly. To see something before it exists in reality, in a sense, I think it is a skill in itself. It's something that is essential if you want to hit somewhere. But we often get like meandered off track. And especially with a lot of people, they go to college or they go to business school, and then they just get confused with all of the many options and all of the many things that's happening around there. How did you come into Wharton, and essentially what was your process of finding the resources, finding either the classes or the people or the extracurricular that helped you towards that goal that you had in mind? How did you go about structuring your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I know these are the skill sets I need. So I purposely looked out for the courses that specialize in. So I did take a communication course. I took a negotiation course. I took business managerial decision-making course. And from a relationship building aspect, I think it's just no brainer. You are surrounded by 800 students every single day, and it's amazing. And I think, and there are just so many different social events that you could go to, and you get to meet tons of people, like throughout your 2 years.
I know. Apprentice is like too many events.
yeah. It's a very busy account. I think haven't been that busy. Even like a city, like you're working capital markets and it's a demanding job. I feel like at the business school is just on 24/7. There's just so many things like, but it's amazing. It's amazing. It gives me so many opportunities to meet and great people all around, and also to learn how to build the relationships. And there was one of the things we do is the pub on Friday, I think, where you just go there and it's like all of your classmates. So there are 800 people are invited. And so that's like where, you know, after a whole week of crazy, you know, study or whatever, and you can have a beer and you actually get to meet so many people. And through like 20 minutes conversation, like I usually do maybe 15, 20 minutes conversation to try to meet different people. And I that was one of my goals, like to make as many friends as possible. And I really did. I think through like, it got to a skill set where coming in, I was like, I don't really know who they are, but like through these type of social activities, you just realize you talk to someone for 15, 20 minutes, you get a sense of generally who they are. You have a very good like feeling, just, oh, what type of person they are, what type of personality, you know, where they like, how do you work together potentially? And that's a really interesting skill set. Going in, I had none of that skills. Going out, and I think you just develop this type of emotional intelligence over time because you're just, you know, you met so many people. So that's one aspect. And the other aspect of it is I also had a goal to travel to 6 different continents.
Okay. There are like as many there, you do know there's like a limited amount of continents, right? 6 is like you can only go like you just took out the Arctic, but sure.
Yeah. So exactly, Antarctica was the only one that I don't really care. I mean, my roommate at the time went there and she had a blast. But it was too cold for me. So I was like, I just wanted to really travel to 6 different continents. And I set a goal, and I actually tried to participate in all of the tracks that's possible to go to Africa. I was in Kenya. Went to Kenya. It was a great track. I went to Australia, New Zealand. I went to Turkey, Israel, and through these type of tracks, it really helped me to build deeper relationships with my classmates. And that's one of the things that I would encourage students to do. Like you guys, if you can actually do, you know, you have, I know you guys are very busy with classes and extracurricular activities, but if you can travel as a group, go do that. And that's a great way to build relationships. So that's part of it. But there was also leadership ventures, which I also further kind of developed my leadership skills. I also participated in a couple of leadership ventures, one of which was the tall ship sailing program, which they put 21 of us on a ship that essentially we had to take turns to do so just man the ship, or, you know, how to steer, and how do you, you know, that in course of, I think 8-10 days that we had to sail across the Atlantic Ocean, and from like Raiatea to Bora Bora, and Maria. They
just left you on the ship.
Yeah. So we're just left on the ship like for like 10 days. I think it's also happened during the New Year's time. So it was like holiday time, and we were stuck with 21 people, but it was an amazing experience. Just pushed you outside your comfort zone. I had developed respect for sailors. I mean, their life is just tough, man. Like, it's amazing experience. So learned so much about leadership from that. And it's called Leadership Venture for a reason. At first I was like, it's just sailing.
I thought you were going to run like a company or something. I did not expect being put on a ship for like 10 days. That is not at all what I would have thought of. How do you have the courage to try new things? How do you not panic? Because one thing that you also seem to be is someone who's just so chill. Like you travel across the world, you work in a high-paced job, you practice with professional dancers, and now I find out you've been on a ship on 10 days, like for 10 days straight, running it with like 20 other people who probably have never been on a ship before. How do you keep calm in all of these different situations? The work alone is something that people struggle with, but you seem to do it in business school. You seem to do it even in high school. So what's the secret here? Like you've got to spill the tea here.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I would really kind of go back. So one of the things I've learned along the way is that, like we got to do hard things. You know, we work very hard, right? For either academics or you're in school and you focus on academics, but also as at work, you have those goals you set out to do. But at the same time, enjoying your life. Like, yeah, seriously, like enjoy your life. Life is too short not to enjoy it. And all the things like we do hard things, but I also, my parent, like my dad now, like he always tells me just always try to enjoy your life. And that is really true, because you don't want to live your life all along and going, and basically, let's say when you're 60, 70 years old, look back and say, hey, like, what did I do with my life? Like, have I enjoyed my life? So really take the moment to enjoy it and have fun. And I would say that's like work hard. You can think about it, work hard, play hard. But for me, it's just in every moment that whatever you do, enjoying it, because this is your life. Yeah. And and I think why am I cool as a cucumber? I'm not as stressed out, or like, even with all these careers, I think, it goes back to what I said, because I felt like I had a pretty big adversity that I had to overcome early on in my life when I was 14 years old. And I think I felt like at the time was moving mountains, to be honest. It was really hard for me going from like that, Beijing, very, a huge extended family. And I was like the center of the attention of the family, like a huge amount of love for to kind of restart and start everything new in this new environment. I think that transition was very difficult, but I was able to overcome that. And at a very vulnerable young age, it just formed a very strong foundation for me. So as I was going to, Wall Street or many 21 people ship, it was hard. It was difficult, but I always think back to these times. Like I could overcome these adversities. These type of things in comparison are a lot easier. So when I say like do the hard things early, and so that later on in life, when you compare, relatively speaking, if it's easier, it just makes you more confident, more comfortable managing. Like I'm not afraid. Like you can throw bricks at me. I don't manage it, And so, but then it could be different experiences for different people, like whatever that adversity, you overcome.
But I'm really glad you brought up this point, because I just know so many people who just have like a really tough time in like middle school to high school, and it gets so like, I wouldn't say terrifying, but people always go around saying this is going to be the best time of your life, you better enjoy it, it gets harder from here, and they're just so terrified for what comes next. So I really like that you say if you're having a tough time in high school and middle school, you could just be getting the hard stuff out of the way, and this could just be the formative period that makes you the next Joanna Zhao for the rest of your life, that makes you relaxed, cool, able to enjoy life, and able to set and achieve the goals that you want. Very, very amazing. Yeah. I wanted to just share some of the highlights from your time at Wharton as well. Like you still did the dance, beautiful as ever, stunning as ever. You graduated and Wharton is of course super tough as for an MBA program. So I think that is living proof of all of that. And honestly, it's out of this world how you've put that together. And I think it's so inspiring for everyone right now who's struggling,
Thank you. Yeah, those are really great times to look back to. And I think that goes back to me saying, like, if you have a hobby, work-life balance is important. And I could try to continue through Wharton Dance Studio and doing dance classes.
But moving to what you do now, like full-time on Wall Street, living the dream in a sense, there is, I feel like you went from, I think there's one of their summer associates to VP, like pretty quickly. You're still so young, so like pretty quickly in a sense. And you work with, again, the CFOs, you work with the top management in some of the biggest companies all around the world. What do you think were the lessons or the specific skills that you learned from all of these different combinations of experiences that you had that made you equipped to handle people at this level? Because they operate at a completely different world from the rest of us who are just scrambling to get by. So what do you think were the skills that you picked up from everything that you've kind of gotten over the years that make you capable of handling the job you have now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for any roles that I have, my advice to students is that hard work and good work is a foundation of path to promotion or path to further advancement in your career. So that is the foundation. So anything you choose to do, give it all in, okay, and do the best work you can. So that serves as the foundation of it. And then on top of it, I think then what can you do to really further advance your career? I would say it's important to really have mentors and sponsors in your career. And I didn't learn this. I mean, going to analyst, I didn't really realize this, but over the course of my career, right? After Wharton, I went to Bank of America. I did a summer associate internship there, and with leverage finance team, which is on the investment banking side. And then I got a full-time offer to return as a junior associate, and then had the opportunity to really progress to and got promoted to the vice president level. I think part of it, very importantly to notice, was the mentorship and the sponsorship that I received and during that course of period. So I think try to seek out mentors. It could be someone that you work with, or it could be someone actually you don't directly work with, but could work in your department or work in different group, but they are senior and they are more experienced. They can kind of pass along the advice. And you can also, in any roles that you have, there are going to be challenges that you face, regardless at what level: analyst level, associate level, vice president level, director level. You'll be surprised. Even managing director level has their own issues. No, you'll be surprised, seriously. So at every single level, seek out the mentorship that is the right fit for you, that is applicable for you at that, that stage of your career. I think that's important.
In terms of like seeking out mentorship, there's two schools of thought to this. One, which is I do the hard work and the quality of my work speaks for itself and people will come in and help me progress. The other school of thought is, yes, of course, the hard work and all of that's important, but it's also important to put myself out there and ask for the mentorship and ask for the sponsorship and get kind of do the additional kind of task of really putting yourself in front of them and asking for the help. Which school of thought do you subscribe to, or is it a combination of both that's helped you?
It can be a combination of both. So I would say that I had, instances for both. So there could be someone who I have worked very closely with, and they actually really are invested in me from that perspective because they really appreciate the hard work that I did for them. So then it is just naturally become a mentorship, mentor-mentee type of relationship. So that's one way. And then the other way is really you seek out the mentors, right? And that could be in many different sort of capacities. Is either so, for example, currently at Equity Research, they actually have this mentor-mentee program where you're matched with a mentor if you're interested in participating in this program. So so what I do is I encourage all the junior people, like the people on my team, to really kind of participate in this program because I have benefits significantly from it. So I got matched actually with someone who is outside of my sector, but is part of equity research and much senior, like managing director level. So I learned a ton just by talking to him. And then there are other ways that you can seek out mentors. Either you could so I'm also part of Wharton Women's Circle, which is like they provide this kind of circle for graduates from the Wharton Business School, and it's a small circle, maybe less than 10 people, and for women. And that's a way to really kind of form this type of mentorship relationship. So it doesn't even have to be necessarily to be in your workplace. It can be even outside, right, in your circle. And there are other also events that I got invited to for women's initiatives like breakfast and stuff. And I just actually met with someone there, through that venue, and she has an amazing career. And I reached out and after the event and said, hey, I saw you have a really, really amazing career path, and I would love to talk to you and learn from you. So, and these are the ways to really kind of form the relationships outside the workplace, and that's going to benefit you. I think that's really important. And I think a sponsorship is also key I think it's actually critical for your promotion process. So sponsor is someone who actually are at a senior level. That could be someone that you work directly with or for, and that who is at actually positional power to advocate for you. And so that you can get promoted, advocate for your promotion. This kind of relationships are very critical. And it's, again, like it takes years to build. that relationship sometimes. But foundation is you do good hard work for them. So for example, when I was a vice president, I know we talked about this, I was very much, you need to be the execution backbone of a deal, right? You're quarterback of the deal. You need to do really well. And as you move to managing director level, you're very much sales. So you are the managing directors are the ones who are out there selling and building relationship with clients. So if you could help the managing director so that he can focus on the selling efforts, and you can take care of everything else that could support him, and organically you're forming this partnership, and that's important. And then in that way, like, he could vouch for you, and he doesn't want to lose you, right? So he wanted you to kind of advance further in your career. So that's a kind of relationship that potentially you can form with a sponsor.
No, I think you said that very well, and just kind of like being both intentional about finding the right people and also letting the work speak for itself. And especially the last point on really going out there and making sure that you do your best for other people, and then you just give the value through the relationships that you have, and you seek out the additional mentorship, you seek out the circles, the people, the people even outside of your department and your jurisdiction, and wherever you can make their life easier, have the conversations. I think that is absolutely world-class advice. You have been so amazing to talk to that I'm so sad we actually are at the end of our interview. I did not even notice the time fly, but I really, really enjoyed talking to you. And thank you so much for being on the show. Any final words of wisdom for our audience here who want to be like you?
Well, I think bet on yourself, believe in yourself, take risks, go the extra mile, and, have a positive mindset, and which is really important. And these are the advice that I would give to the students. And also I would say for women out there, I would love to see you more in investment banking, capital markets, and we need more people to advance to senior roles in finance industry. So I'm happy to help out, and feel free to reach out if any further questions.
Thank you so much. You have been absolutely phenomenal. I just hope you had as much of an amazing hour as we did listening to you. So I really, really appreciate your time, and all the best to the many things that you're doing. And hopefully if you're on Broadway, we can catch the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Harsha. This is just amazing. I'm just such a pleasure and honor to be on the show. And thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. And thank you to our audience too. Thank you so much for listening to us and for being part of this conversation. As always, hopefully this gave you a glimpse into how you can change your reality as well. I think our speaker today, Joanna, surely showed how that is possible. And hopefully you get the little nuggets of wisdom that you need from this to go out there and do the same in your life. And with that, our session for today has come to a close. Thank you guys for watching Changing Reality. We'll see you again next Thursday at 10 p.m. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio.